What's going on, Action Army?
What's happening, guys? Welcome to the show. Welcome to the official Action Army show.
Welcome to the most important hour of your life this week. If you're not watching this show, you're probably a Jackass or a Lions Den fan.
Yeah, guys, it's basically a fucking call to action. Just kidding. It's exactly what it is, okay? This is the intro to Call to Action. The single most important piece of content you're going to ingest in the next 7 minutes.
If you love Action Army and you love Ben and Drew, then this is the place to be. And if you don't love us, well, then fuck you.
Go buy a suit, get it fitted, get the pants tailored so the length is just right and the break of your pants looks fantastic, get a bottle of Jameson, and get on fucking board. Peace out.
Hey everyone, welcome to Call to Action, the Action Army podcast. I am one of your hosts for today, Michael Samblas, who decided to get the ball rolling a little bit early with the introductions. And my co-host will now introduce himself as we begin this episode in a totally professional manner.
Hi, you guys. I am the racist misogynist James here. How are you guys doing?
All right. So we've got several matches to recap here. We've been off the air for a couple weeks now. So the first match we've got is the team with my favorite name in this whole tournament, the Paddington 2, versus another team whose name escapes me right now. But it doesn't matter because they lost. Sorry, what?
War Machine.
The War Machine, that's right. And I'm actually being kind of unfair to the War Machine because I actually really liked them. So going into this match, I want to start by saying Brian Walton's pretty awesome. I want to see more of him.
Name, but not the team name.
Yeah, all right. Whatever. I have a weird memory. Brian Walton's cool. I like him. I hope the War Machine stays together. They make a good pair. I really want to see both of them stick with Jay and stick together as a team. That said, this was not a very close match. And in my bracket, I have Paddington 2 winning their side of the bracket. James, what is your take on this match?
I just called myself a racist and a misogynist, and you had no objections whatsoever.
Yeah, because we proved that last time.
God damn it. I'm very sad. Not because I hate bears or marmalade. I'm a very big fan of Janine, and I don't like it when she loses. And Jay crying it's obnoxious. But I am glad to see someone unique win, let's say that, because I think Alonso Duralde brings a very different vibe than most competitors we see. And someone who can crush a category that isn't picked very often, see Team Spinner's Choice and their 70s, we've seen can go a very long way. So if they can play up the current angle they're going with as, I would call it a super face if they lean into it, where they're just so loving that they're not even considered like normal happy people. They're just love. I think it'd be fun, but I always root for the heels unless it's the Patriots. So this is a letdown.
Yeah, I mean, so once again, I'm going to reiterate, character-wise, I think Brian Walton ran away from this because I'm also a big fan of Janine, but we've seen her, she is just doing a consistently great job. Walton, I had no expectation for. I don't know who this guy was. I knew who everyone else in this match was except for him. He shows up, and I'm like, oh my God, I love this guy. Within like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Like he opens his mouth, and I'm like, okay, this guy's awesome. And I really want to see him come back to the league. Once again, I think the War Machine should stick together. I think every other team that loses in the first round is gone, other than the Wildberries, who are going to probably lose in the first round.
Oh, they're going to win. They're going to win. I am repping Wildberries. They are going to win.
But they're the one team that I really strongly advise that they stick together, even though they're starting at 0-1. That could actually mean that they get a fairly easy first match next season. They can help them bounce right back and start making a statement early on. That said, as far as like the best moments of this match, gotta go with Alonso Duralde. They had a couple. First of all, his pre-interview heels were meant to be stepped on. That was pretty great. And then in the middle of the match, they spin Cate Blanchett. I'm a gay man. I know things about Cate Blanchett.
Okay, that was amazing.
Great. That was pretty awesome. And no things about Kate Blanchett he did because they crushed that round. Once again, this was not. It's weird because usually, like when a team loses like by this wide of a margin, like the War Machine did, usually like I'm not that like excited about them when it's a new team, but I really am excited about the War Machine and what they did. But from the get-go, round one belonged to the Paddington 2. Round two, Paddington 2 not only outscored the War Machine, but got a really big steal there. And then round three was just a TKO. This was a very one-sided match, and it kind of brings into perspective something about this Anarky tournament. I love the new teams we're seeing, but this first round almost seems like a demo reel for these new teams. Like it's kind of to introduce the people who are going to go on to the second round, because we have not seen any upsets yet. So this was more to me about like establishing the Paddington 2 as a team to be feared, just as the rest of these matches were there to establish the winning teams. These matchings seem to have been kind of deliberately made to favor one team. The only two exceptions, I think, are Bibiani and Nost versus Sabina and Irwin, which is a fairly even matchup, and McWeenie and Chandler versus Seibold and the Movie Geek seems pretty could go either way.
I'm just looking it up now because you're talking about it. On top of War Machine, I think that the next like possible candidate to maybe stay together, I think McWeenie and Chandler, win or lose, I think they would be a fun team.
Yeah. That could be. No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. And you mentioned them already, Irwin and Graves. Irwin has no one in his corner. Maybe Lon Harris, but that's sort of maybe the Wangers.
Here's the thing, though. I think they want Irwin on a super team.
Yeah.
And I think if he loses the first round, if they lose to Bibiani Nost, I think they're done.
However, if they win, I can't imagine them breaking up, because beating Bibiani is a big thing, but throw Nost in there, and yeah, he's not a big name, but he's still a former team champion. He's had perfect rounds. He's had amazing games. I think they have enough team to stay together.
I think that's still a toss-up, because I believe Sabina's still 1-1 in teams. So she would then be in 2 1-1 teams.
But she also played well in the free-for-all.
Yeah, but once again, like she has her team with Gerber, who we're going to talk about in a little bit. But I think if they win 2 matches and then lose, because they would have to beat Bibiani Nost, and then who's the boss? If they did that, then I think they're sticking together.
If they beat who's the boss, I would say they're going to win right there. Because, I mean, we saw last week, or 2 weeks now, 2 weeks ago now, that Dan Murrell is shakeable. And we know how easy it is to, like, break Roca. Like, if they can beat...
Irwin is really the kind of person who gets under your skin that way.
But I think it's more of a fear than anything. Because, like, if they play badly, at least for Roca, if he plays badly, he gets shaken. Murrell, maybe just not as impressive as in the first round as we've seen recently. So if they can establish dominance, I feel like they can win that match. But that's still beating Riley and Bateman, who I will get into it later. But they were the only match recently, or these 2 weeks, who didn't get a TKO, but they were still the highest scorers.
Yeah. So let's right now move on to another brutal match. The Odd Couple versus Sebs.
I just feel really good for Scott Mance.
Scott Mance is the very paragon of inconsistency in the Schmoedown. I don't know if there's any other player who it's uncanny. Like if you were to chart his scores each match, it's insane. And on top of that, he had probably the worst just pure gameplay since Humberto Gonzalez.
Oh God.
I love Scott Mance. All right. I'm an old school profiles viewer, big time, long time fan of Mance. But in this match, he picked a category that he didn't know what it was based on the very obvious pictures on the wheel slice. Like, And also, like, you kind of scoffed a little bit when I mentioned that Sabina was on a team with Gerber. Gerber hung in round one with Snyder and Andreyko. He was
no.
right.
Oh, I was thinking of Zipper. I was gonna say like he was like a championship contender, but no, fucking.
No, Zipper is with Winston.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Gerber acquitted himself very well in that round one. Mance did not. They were trailing in round one largely because of Mance, and he was supposed to be the stronger player on that team. So right there at that point, you start to realize like Gerber needs to take over the situation and he needs to assume dominance because he's the one who showed up to play today. He's the one who is playing on the level of his opponents. And like I felt like we were in trouble the minute you had the pre-interviews and Gerber goes like, oh, I'm so fortunate to be playing with Scott Mance, a legend of this game. These are like three legends and just me. And it's like, yeah, but Scott Mance is a legend in a very different way than Snyder and Enrico. It's like, once again, love Mance. I think it is incredibly ironic in singles that his best game is a loss against Bateman and his worst game is a win against Rudnick.
Okay. You have to quantify that with he is a legend like Josh McCouga is a legend.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, he is not a consistent player. All right. That Bateman match, he was incredible and he lost. And yet that Rudnick match, he was terrible and he won. All right. Like, this is not a guy you want to go like, oh, yeah, you pick the category. No. All right. Gerber did some things like when he asks for that JTE rule, Scott Mance was not going to do that. And so he showed some initiative. But once again, I think that deference for this legend of the game, as he put it, kind of kept him from assuming the leadership that he could have. If they'd spun again, they could have landed on something like comic book movies, which is very much in Gerber's wheelhouse, and that would have put them over. Yeah. You got something?
I would like to point out that I picked Scott Mance in the second round of our fantasy league.
Yes, you did. I remember that. That was a terrible choice.
Hey, and my first pick was Mark Andreyko, and that worked out pretty well.
I am, I'm pretty, like, there was like a bunch of people still open at that time that I think Clark Wolf was still on the table, for instance.
Was she?
Yeah.
Fuck. I'm worse than I thought. No wonder I'm in sixth place. Jesus Christ.
I think Stacey Howard was up for grabs, and she's had a great season. So
that's like fucking picking Andrew Guy, though. Like, yes, she's an amazing player, but we didn't even think that she was going to have the singles run that she did.
Yeah. Well, you picked wrong. Anyway, so moving on to the odd couple. I like their interplay. We're going to talk more about this when we get to the Who's the Boss match, but of the two frenemy teams, so to speak, I think Who's the Boss is doing it better a little bit. I think having Dagnino as this like chaotic force in there is just funnier. Even though I really like Roxy, she's almost doing too good a job. Like, she's keeping them under control, which kind of lowers the entertainment value of their team a little bit. Because that's kind of what I like about Who's the Boss, is that they're kind of at each other's throats a little bit more. So, like what they're doing. They're playing great. They're a deadly team. I think that their match against the Paddington 2 is going to be a really high-scoring game. And yeah, I don't know where they're going to go from here, but they're a deadly combo.
I do want to point out that I've said it before, I'm an admin on the Collider Live page. Check it out. I love Roxy. Like, she is amazing. The stuff she brings to that show is... I don't think you can like find another a version of it. She complements it perfectly. And then in the Schmodown, she's window dressing, honestly. Because I don't think she adds much. She doesn't bring a personality to it. She just says, yeah, here's the people. Like, I want more Roxy. Like, do you watch Collider Live?
Let her hair down a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind what she's doing. I like her persona. I don't know her from anywhere else, really. So, I don't particularly mind her. But once again, having and I don't think it's just Roxy, really any face manager with these two, I think kind of tempers what could be some really, funny opposing chemistry.
Yeah. I mean, we saw how Finstock and Dagnino, whoever you want to say, elevated Snyder with the Patriots. Roxy can do that. She has the ability to be a heel. I truly believe that she could be a great manager. But if she keeps the blasé,
to be honest, if you were in charge of the league, everyone would be a heel.
I love heels. I want a fucking cage match. Everyone knows I'm not a.
No one who wouldn't. You'd have like Harloff and Ellis from the announcing table, like shit talking all of the competitors constantly. Like,
what is wrong with that?
Did you want Janish to be a heel while he's like giving the stat report or something?
They got 80%. Fucking idiots.
Yeah. Anyway,
the only two people allowed to be faces in my league: the Wildberries and just the Wildberries. Wildberries are the only faces.
So moving on to the next match, one that is very painful to talk about, because it is Andrew Guy versus John Roca. Andrew has had a legendary run in this season so far, and it was gone too soon from this world because of John Roca, who is in clear violation of his collision stipulation, and I will bring this up literally every episode until it is addressed. The only thing worse than bagpipes is bagpipes over like our shitty laptop audio, so turn that off.
I'm playing him off because this is the end of an era, end of a legacy.
Yeah. Anyway. All right, dude.
Okay, I can't hear what it sounds like, so I have no idea.
So Andrew did not play his best game. Roca played a good game, and that's how this ended. And I really don't want to get any more into this, so I'm just going to hand it over to you.
I don't know how to describe it, but I think it sounds best just in the way that they talked about it since on their reaction, where this was a very important match, not only just for the story but also for Andrew personally. And it's no secret that I used to be a fan. I used to be a fan of Roca. I'm in. Do we have like a Roca's Anonymous now for people who used to be addicted but now they're not?
You could. I mean,
I'm starting an RA. I'm James. I used to be a Roca addict, and it's rough seeing my former addiction come back and beat what I thought was using to replace it, and now it's gone like a turd in the wind.
One thing is for sure is that I have no conflict anymore about who I want holding the title come Spectacular. Bibiani, you got this.
I can't think of another person who would not only pull off the fistful of dollars thing, but would even come to think of it rather than just being annoying and say, I'm going to kick your ass. Say, no, here's some fucking money, you idiot. Fistful of dollars.
That was great.
It was
Bibiani on the mic is really underrated, just because he's so like silly. I think a lot of competitors, when it comes to like smack talking Bibiani, just like don't know what to do. And it's in a very different way from like Team Action, where they're just like so quick on the mic that you don't have a comeback in time. With Bibiani, it's just like what the hell are you even doing right now? I don't understand.
Right. He's my other face I'm allowing in my league because he's he's unique. And I worry the longer the show is going to run on, the less words I'm going to have to describe him. But Bibiani is a man who is truly impossible to define. He is an amazing personality and aura brought to the league. That
I also want to shout out Bibiani because he basically rivals Andrew at this point for the degree of engagement he has on the Facebook page.
Rivals, he supersedes anyone. He is the top Facebook interactor, maybe except for Janine, because she's also a pretty big fan. Bibiani is the best, just all around.
Definitely more than any champion we've ever had.
Yeah.
He posts constantly those pop quizzes. One day I'm going to be able to respond to that in time.
One day, one fucking day.
I really hope those continue, like even if he's not champion anymore, just because like it's a great way to build engagement with the fans. And I think that Bibiani's fan base is much smaller than it should be right now, and I think he's slowly building more fans. And he just hasn't been given as much of an opportunity to shine. What with critically acclaimed, I'll say it again, getting shafted for those team belts before the tournament, and Bibbs, of course, having to kind of having a rough season last year.
I do honestly think everyone in this podcast, if we were to post this for anyone else, it would be critically acclaimed.
Oh, I would.
We would be a lot more disappointed, but we would still like host them.
I would host the hell out of that show. Although at that point, we would have to invite Chris Clark onto.
Yeah, we would actually get Chris Clark to guest for once.
I would feel bad about starting a critically acclaimed podcast just because, like, I feel like Chris Clark has a monopoly on the right to do that. Like, that's his.
I'd fight him for that position. I could, like.
I think I'm the biggest critically acclaimed fan in our podcast, and I would not fight Chris Clark for that position.
I just want to fight someone. Like, this is aside from who the biggest fan is. I just want to fight. Like,
well, I mean that is something that you are totally able to do, even though it's not legal for you to do it. Now,
right? I get arrested.
Final match to recap. Who's the boss? It's a rhetorical question because it's Ben Bateman versus Crazy 80, greats but not great enough to beat Who's the Boss.
Great enough to still outscore everyone else, though.
Yeah.
I would just like to point that out. I don't have the actual stats up for Wait, I Know This and the fucking Fossils, whatever their name is. But basically just like, so I'm using a pizza receipt for coursekeeping today. They still scored 27 points, which is higher than Paddington 2 or Odd Couple. Hey, Harry. So I honestly think that they, if not for the fact that Scream Queens is having like a semi-impressive run right now, good enough for a title shot, I think they could be a good team. That's because Fouch is a fucking killer, and no one seems to recognize that.
Yeah, Fouch is great. When we kind of recap the other news, I'm going to talk about her a little bit more. But yeah, she is a really strong player. I think she is the heavy lifter in the Scream Queens, and I think they played a great match. However, Who's the Boss had that chemistry. They really, really complement each other well, and they worked together a lot better than I thought they would. Dagnino, he is kind of stirring the pot a little bit. I enjoyed that. Yep.
I do want to point this out because I brought it up. The score for the Founding Fathers match is 20-17. So they also outscored Roca and Merle.
But that was a TKO.
It was a TKO. However, on paper, they're still there. So that's incredible. But also, fuck Dagnino. Just need to throw it out there.
Yeah. Anyway, going back to the match. Yeah, Who's the Boss? I really like the whole situation going on there. I don't know what the hell Dagnino was doing. It was weird, but all in all, I had a lot of fun with that match. It's going to be really interesting to see what this team does moving forward. But I honestly do think, because once again, like, these matches do feel like, meet the players of this new tournament a little bit, because once again, only two are really potentially close matches.
And, no, to me, why that stands out is the lack of Janish's stat segments. Because we're not getting it in any of these team matches. I think one of you guys in our chat mentioned it was because there's no reason to cover a team that's going to have one match ever.
Yeah.
And I get that, but the lack of it really shows that people don't expect them to stay. We don't think like, oh, these are going to go on and they're going to be the new champions. Whatever. They may.
I think we'll get more stat updates starting the second round of the tournament to start like comparing their performances because these are new teams. We have nothing to compare it to. He could start talking about, what these players do on average in round one, but these matches aren't really like tight enough or really memorable enough to warrant let's break down the stats of this new team. Once they start having more matches, we're going to see that, I think. But I think, moving on from, do you have anything else to say about this match before we move on?
No, although I do think that Finstock now, his Captain Croatia bit is sort of funny. I would like to see where that could develop in the future, like a new persona.
All right. Now, there are a couple things we have to talk about. We're not going to talk about the Patreon, exclusive stuff like the Harloff Ellis match or anything like that. But there are some announcements that have been made. The Patreon stuff, I wanted to kind of broach one topic real quick, and then I think there's a couple more things that we need to talk about. One, Harloff recently posted in the Facebook page who we'd want to see in a Patreon exclusive horror 5-way exhibition. And I was just...
Go ahead. I'm going to find my answers I actually posted.
I was just scrolling through the responses, and there were so many different ones that, to me, this contextualizes something that I've been saying for a while, which is that this should be a league, not a one-off exhibition match. I think we have more top competitors in horror than we do in Inner Geekdom. Because when you look at that Inner Geekdom tournament, that was another one. The first round, all of those matches were knockouts. Like, there were a ton of knockouts in that tournament, and it's because you have a very small amount of real contenders in that league. Horror, I think you have a slightly larger amount. I think you can do an 8-person tournament. Obviously not this season, but if this match goes well, that's what I want to see. So I have no particular preference over who I'd want to see in this 5-way, with the exception that whoever won would be champion to start, I guess. But I think this is something that should be bigger than just a one-off thing. And I really want to see where that potentially goes. So I hope that the Patreon exclusive match catches people's attention, and that through that we can get more content.
Yeah, I would also like to point out, I spent so long searching through these fucking comments to find my comments. It proves to show you how much people actually want this. So I wouldn't call it, I don't think an actual league would be great. I think a couple just horror matches without a belt. Say if we change it into what we want Star Wars to become, where it's matches without a big belt. I think that would work.
Yeah, I honestly, and this is just my preference because Star Wars is a very narrow thing. Like, you're talking about 10 movies constantly. Horror is this huge part of the filmmaking world that is a very big niche. I would rather the horror league replace Star Wars. Like, the amount of Star Wars matches we have a year, have those be horror matches.
Yeah.
I enjoy the Star Wars matches, but once again, it feels like we have those matches because the people in charge of the Schmodown love Star Wars. And that's their preference. But when it comes to something that you really have the range of competitors for, I think horror trumps that, especially since a lot of the people who compete in Star Wars are people we don't see otherwise. And so there's not a lot of crossover with the rest of the league, whereas it would be fun for a lot of the rivalries and storylines of the regular league to seep into something like the horror league, which is possible with Star Wars.
I think my issue is it's sort of a slippery slope because there were talks before of a Classics League coming in, and one thing I like about it now of the separate leagues we have now are studyable. Inner Geekdom and Star Wars, despite how hard the questions are, there are a limited number of films, per se. If you break it down into more specific categories, it's near impossible to truly study. So while it does set it apart and make it its own thing, I think you're going to have an issue of people saying we want this league, this league, this league, and either competitors get too spread out and we end up just running thin on a bunch of the leagues. Or we just end up getting very shallow questions. Very shallow.
What I'm proposing is that we start leagues that we have enough competitors for. The Star Wars matches, there aren't and especially with the Inner Geekdom, as we've seen, there aren't as many competitors as we would need for the kind of stuff they clearly want to do. A 16-person Inner Geekdom tournament, I don't think was the right call, and I think they're suffering for it now that we have an 8-person singles tournament. And I think that the singles tournament should have been a bigger deal than the Inner Geekdom one.
I don't get why it's 8 people. Like, I think we have plenty of time. Maybe I'm counting wrong. Actually, I am counting wrong. We don't have that much time.
Yeah, you are. It's once again, it's a result of the fact that they decided to do the Inner Geekdom tournament.
Yes, and well, we're in a situation right now where we have a lot of competitors who don't get a lot of love. I mean, fuck, Erwin is in, and he's like what, 2-1?
Yeah.
Like what the fuck? On top of this, Andrew isn't going to get it because he has a filming issue. And I can guarantee you, Stacy and Janine aren't going to get it.
In 1 minute, I do want to kind of bring up first of all the structure of this tournament, because that is our next topic. So we've kind of established. I enjoyed the last half of the Inner Geekdom tournament. I liked, as kind of tough as to watch as it was, the Mara and Rachel match was fun. Mara Kalinowski was also fun. The Kalinowski's kind of rise to the top was great to see, but all of that happened in that second half of the tournament. I think it should have been 8 people to begin with. The only one of the first round matches that really felt like a match was Navarro versus Hlavik. And what that would have freed you up to do, like, I'm not really big on the Inner Geekdom, so I didn't need a tournament to begin with, and I don't think the league needed it. But what that would have freed you up to do is to start getting some new blood into the singles league and reintroduce some older players. That would have been a great opportunity to give someone from Top That a singles debut. Or introduce Brian Walton early before the team tournament starts. Hype people up for him. Give Whitney Seibold a singles match.
I agree with you. However, you are turning it into the Inner Geekdom tournament. Then, I think that's the issue. Overall, I don't like the idea of giving it to people who haven't played, because then it sort of devalues the idea of a tournament and becomes more of an advertising like we had in the beginning of the year. Because that was the time for people to make it.
I'm not even talking about the singles tournament. I'm just talking about how the fact that the beginning of the year, like if you had eliminated the Inner Geekdom tournament entirely, right, which would free up.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah. I'm saying, like, before the team tournament even started, giving some of these players a debut so that come the singles tournament, maybe they are in positions to join. What if Alonso Duralde had joined the league earlier in this year and he was at 2-0 right now?
And
he's in the prime spot to join the singles tournament with 16 players.
And let's just say it outright. Why am I blanking on his name? Jesus Christ, I feel terrible. Whitney Seibold could be a fucking champ.
Yeah, easily.
Because his partner is currently the champion. On top of that, look what Andrew is doing right now. By being the lesser of the two competitors in a championship level team, he nearly had a title shot.
And the notion that Seibold is the lesser of those competitors is still up for debate. We don't have enough game tape on him, and we haven't seen him on his own.
Exactly. You're taking away the opportunity. And again, like, he is an enigma to me. I follow him on Twitter, and I don't know jack shit about him. This man is a secret. I don't know what his filming schedule could be like.
He outscored Bibiani's first match, so he got a perfect round 1 that time. Yeah. So that's kind of what makes me so sad about this singles tournament. As excited as I am for it, now let's talk about the people who actually are in it right now, and we can kind of get into who we think will be in it. But right now, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it is Erwin, Merle, Andraco, and Wolf. So right there, something stands out to me. That's a lot of faces. Like, a lot. I'm starting to wonder how many heels will be in this tournament. I'm also starting to wonder how much kind of faction representation we're going to get here, because we've got 2 5 Club members here, and I can see Rachel being another one of the competitors moving forward. So, are we going to have 3 5 Club and then maybe Roca, or, depending on the outcome of his Bibiani match, or Riley? We could have at least half or more of the roster here belonging to 2 factions. And so I don't know who these other 4 are going to be, but I really hope they kind of even out the face-heel split, because right now we have all faces. I want to see one member of Team Action here. I don't know, what Andrew's schedule is for the rest of the year, but I would like to see Ben or Andrew represent the team, obviously, due to my loyalties as well. Snyder might be a good choice at this point. I can't imagine they wouldn't make McWeenie one of these people, which is why I'm so concerned, because that would make 5 faces in this tournament. But I have a feeling McWeenie's going to be one of the other ones. It's hard to tell if the loser of Bibbs Roca will be in this. My gut tells me they won't if it's Bibbs, but it might if it's Roca, just based on kind of precedent. I think the minute Bibbs went with a -2 record, they kind of decided that he wasn't going to be in the singles tournament, regardless of how the rest of the season shook out for him. So who do you think is going to end up here? Who do you want to see here?
I'll just explain. I was looking for a poll that went up recently that was basically asking the question. We couldn't find anything. But yeah, obviously I want Andrew in. And because the way I see it working out is going to be the same as last time, where we're going to have a 5-way to see who gets in that final, I guess now 8th slot. And Ben's probably going to be in there, which sucks because he's 2-2, I think, currently.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Dan should be in there outright, because he played the worst game of his life last time he played. He needs some sort of redemption. And if he sweeps it,
I'm a big Merle fan, and I agree with that. So here are the people I think are in contention. So we don't know who these 4 spots are. So the 2 most likely ones I think are Cushing and McWeenie. They've had great seasons. We have not seen Cushing in singles since she lost her title shot. So she's in there. McWeenie, I think, is in there. Definitely won't happen, but if he wanted to, they'd give him a spot. Sam Levine, right? He's retired, but if he said, I want back in the league, they'd give him one of those remaining 4 spots.
Absolutely, but I don't think he'll be back. I think it's too soon.
Yeah, but I'm throwing it out there that he has it if he wants it, basically, because he didn't lose the belt and they would give it to him.
I do want to point this out. I'm on the Schmodown wiki, which isn't an official source. But looking at the top 10 competitors, Wolf is on there, Irwin is on there, and Draco is on there, and who am I missing? Merle is on there. Right. Our top 3 are still Roca, Riley, Merle.
But those take into account just like records and not recency, not strength of schedule. So that's a little off.
Yeah. I'm going to just go blankly by just the names given here because it's the easiest to list off. Snyder's on a 7-5 record, comes off again the worst game he's ever played. And Stacy comes off
he didn't play.
Bad loss. Yeah, Snyder did not show up that second round, which sucks. He can invent it all he wants, but he just gave bad guesses. And Rachel, she's 4-2, which is surprising, which I thought she would have been doing a lot better. But she's coming off a title shot, which she earned.
Yeah.
And I think it's the nicest way possible. Clark didn't earn it. And Draco earned it. It was a bit screwy, but he earned it. Clark was given the shot. She's still a great competitor, but she was given it. So the fact that she's in, I hope she's not a high seed, because I don't know who else is going to be playing for those last 4 slots.
Well, in this tournament, the low seed is still going to be a great competitor because it's only 8 people, and the singles league. And that's the thing. If there's any league that needed a 16-person tournament, it's singles, because we have so many competitors.
Well, it's even just setting it aside. Teams is literally 2 people. So if you take everyone in that tournament, that's 32 people who can play singles, ignoring the fact that there are still a bunch of people who could be playing who aren't, like Andrew. So the fact that they're limiting it to 8 when you have 32 possible contenders right here is ridiculous.
Yeah, and Andrew is not the only one who didn't show up. Once again, you have, Top That is not in this tournament, like so many other teams and players.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Christian
Of
just
course,
said, if you're not
themselves.
gonna, like,
Uh,
they showed up, but they didn't try. They
Yeah.
didn't study. They didn't do any research into it. I wouldn't be surprised if he just said, "Don't come back until you put effort into this league."
Yeah. Like I said, I think the two biggest likelihoods are McWeeny and Cushing. I think additionally, Lon Harris is a strong possibility after his game against Irwin. I think Harris will at least be given the opportunity to qualify.
Yeah.
As will, I think, Janine, who has, I think, an identical record.
2-1.
Stacy, same boat. And Draco's already in it, so that's it. Andrew and Ben. Andrew is also 2-1.
Yeah, I think if Andrew has time, he's guaranteed in. He'd be like the 7 seed though.
Yeah. Riley is a possibility if Merle got in. Yeah. And once again, the big question mark being the loser of Roca and Bibiani. So at this point, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, so here's what I'm thinking right now. In our qualifiers match, we have Ben Bateman, Janine, Stacey Howard, and Lon Harris. That final spot is probably going to be Mark Riley. If they go by overall rankings, he's guaranteed in. I wouldn't be surprised if someone say like Matt Nost, or at the very least Chance Ellison if him and Kalinowski have an impressive debut in the team league.
Or Brienne.
Yeah.
Could be.
But she hasn't played a singles match since she quit the league, though, right?
Correct.
Yes. That free-for-all does give her a slight edge, but it's going against, again, the likes of Mark Riley or a possible finalist, Chance Ellison. Or even like Kalinowski, because he's 4-4 currently.
Yeah, so we don't know. The thing about Chance Ellison is a little tricky because if he wins the team tournament, it's one thing. But if he is a semifinalist or a runner-up, like the question becomes why him and not Whitney Seibold or Alonso Duralde or the Movie Geek, all these competitors who are, ostensibly strong players who have not debuted in singles. So maybe, this is a crazy idea. Maybe they do a qualifying match, like a 5-way among like those 2-1 players we were talking, and then do like a 4-way between some of the really strong newcomers from the team tournament.
I wouldn't mind if, and it's just totally out there, and I think it's a terrible idea personally, but I wouldn't mind if it happens, is just say, take the best of the top 4. And if they're not playing, put them in that qualifier. Whether it be someone like Chance Ellison or someone like Brienne. All people who would have zero chance of being in it otherwise, but if their record as a team proves it, throw them in there.
So one person who unfortunately will probably not be in the singles tournament, and I guess this is what we're going to end off of, is JTE.
Yeah.
So for those who are not aware, JTE was in a pretty bad car accident, and he is really hurting right now, and they're having difficulty paying for his medical bills. So there is a page to donate to that if you are so inclined. Now, because of that, it has been said that the Evil Geniuses recorded their first match, but JTE will not be in the tournament moving forward. And we want to, before we kind of get into that topic, we just want to kind of reiterate that our thoughts are with JTE and April and their families, and we hope that he has a speedy recovery for everyone's sake. We really want him back in the league, and we want to make sure that he's okay as well, just for him. Now, that being said, the question becomes, so one possibility is that they lost, which would eliminate the need for a contingency plan. The other is that the Wild Berries could beat the Evil Geniuses. It's not impossible. Makuga has beaten JTE.
Very possible.
The other possibility is that Lon Harris gets a new teammate. So I am wondering, a lot of people are saying that Andrew could be it. I don't think that's the case because he is just unavailable for the tournament. Who do you think it could be?
I'm just looking currently at the roster, and I'm just purely the losers in the tournament. I think Stacey Howard and Haley Fouch are good possibilities. Because
So do you think it'll be someone who was already in the tournament or someone from outside?
I think that generally it would be someone from outside. However, because of how sudden it is, it would be someone who is very dedicated to the league, who sadly lost the first round. Andrew, for not his busy schedule, would be it. I would also say someone like Sam Levine or Bibiani, but both I think are unusable currently. So I think
He's in the tournament.
Bibiani is in the tournament. I'm just saying the chance that he loses.
Right.
It's not going to happen, but there's always a chance. Whatever the fuck he is.
Yeah, it's hard because you want to keep things fair and you want to have a competitor who's kind of comparable to JTE. So I don't know. It's
Well, that's why I say Stacey Howard, because she's still a top 10 competitor. She had a great showing at the Founding Fathers match.
Yeah, I mean, it could be her.
Yeah, and I think this would be a great breaking out point for Fouch because again, 27 points. Granted, it wasn't a TKO, so other people could have gotten that high. But the fact that she did that, and I think she did most of the heavy lifting for that team, honestly, other than the second round.
Yeah, I want to see more Fouch. I think she's a lot of fun.
And they can both play heels, so they're playing the evil to Lon's genius.
Yeah, so that's I guess we'll leave it off of that. So I just want to thank everyone for tuning in. My name is Michael Samblas. I am frequently on the Schmodown Facebook page if you want to find me there. James, you have anything to plug?
I will say I can't promise it because I have a terrible memory, but I will try to drop April's GoFundMe in the link below, in the description below, to support them in any way possible. You can find me on Twitter at Temecula Film Guy. That is at TEMECULA Film Guy. You can also find me on Twitter at James_Spence. And I think that's it. You can also find Ben and Andrew at Ben Bateman Media, Andrew Guy at Andrew Guy. You can follow their show, Action Movie Anatomy, and their Showdown Personas at Team Action Show. Do you know what they're doing this week?
No, I haven't checked yet.
Great, neither do I.
Right.
I think that is it. Keep an eye out this week. We're trying to record a new monthly segment. We'll hopefully get out sometime before Friday. But other than that, I think we are good.
All right. See you guys later.